Hey Internet, Jeff Bryant's here with a review of the 2020 Trek Top Fuel 9.8. Hey, before I jump into this review, just wanted to mention I'm starting to do content creation, gear reviews, that sort of thing again. Those that know me know I've reviewed for a number of media outlets in the past, and I'm going to do a video about that separately, but I did want to mention at the top of this review that I did pay for this bike. I didn't get taken on any trips, I didn't get a demo it for free, I didn't get it sent for free, these parts were for free. I paid for it, and I think that's worth noting. So let's jump into the review. Okay, so Trek came out with Top Fuel way back when. It was their flagship race bike. In 2020, they reintroduced it, and it had more travel, more relaxed angles, and pretty clear that Trek probably had something else up their sleeve as their dedicated cross-country World Cup race bike, and that was the Super Caliber. So Super Caliber has a little less travel, it's lighter, has racier angles, and by racy I mean it's like a road bike with fat tires, and the Top Fuel kind of fell into this weird, is it a race bike, is it a trail bike, what's it meant for? I didn't really care what they said it was meant for. I just thought this thing looked like a bike that I could race and probably have a lot of fun on the trails with. And at 34, being that I'm not, going to the Olympics as a racer, or I'm not gonna turn any heads as a cross-country guy, or really any kind of guy, I thought this would be a really good bike to buy. So let's get into the spec really quick. 120 up front, 115 out back, carbon frame, carbon wheels, dropper post, 12-speed drivetrain. Comes in around $5,500. Yeah, that's not super cheap, but it's also not super expensive considering the space. These cross-country bikes, these types of bikes with carbon, carbon wheels, carbon frame, you're usually looking at $6,500 on up. Looking at the spec a little more in depth, it does have a chain guide, kick ass, good job Trek on that one. The dropper post, 170 in the larger sizes. I'm on an XL here. Great job there. Cockpit has a no, never mind. It's not spectacular. Whoever spec'd the cockpit, you did a bad job, but we'll cut you some slack here because those are cheap to change. It does have a locks out the front and the rear with the turn of a grip shifts back, that's right, and it has SLX brakes. So how'd this bike perform? Let's talk about the boring part first, going uphill. Bike goes uphill pretty well. I'm used to enduro bikes. I race enduro, I love enduro, I have enduro bikes still, and it goes uphill a lot better than them. In all seriousness, I thought it climbed well, even compared to like the Scalpel SI or whatever it is, World Cup I was able to snag for a bit of time this summer. I did feel the lockout was necessary on smoother terrain. It does bob a little bit. The anti-squat values are not at 100% in a suitable climbing ratio, let's say. So it's going to be a little active under pedaling. I think that's fine. Some might find it to be excessive, maybe. I don't know. Probably not. One thing I did really like is in more rocky, rough terrain, it just stayed really active, and I think that's kind of unique for a bike of this travel, that sort of thing. But yeah, the climbing, I was bored with thinking about it. It just did it well. I was able to knock off like every KOM I tried on it, being that every other time I was trying it was on an enduro bike, and it did it really well. It's an efficient bike, let's put it that way. So let's get into the descending, the rolling terrain, the fun parts. This bike was a blast. On smoother single track, kind of your normal quote-unquote mountain biking, anything IMBA approved? No, kidding. Normal mountain biking, this thing is awesome. This is just a mountain bike for mountain bikers. I know that's been said before, but it really just does well and is a blast to ride. It's kind of like a sports car. You get a lot of energy out of it. You feel a lot more. Like I said, like the sports car analogy, but it corners really well, and you can pump and work sections of trail that you just wallow through on your bigger bike. So I think for a lot of trails, this isn't just more efficient going up, but it's faster and more fun going down, and that's a big surprise. I did change the front tire to an XR4 from an XR3. The same cornering knobs, just a little more aggressive braking center knob. I don't think that I really changed much as far as the rolling resistance, that sort of thing, at least up front. But yeah, that's the only real change I made to the bike as far as descending goes. Fork, stellar performer. Feels like there's more travel than there is. That the 34, what does it fit? for my 200 pounds, I think is a fork that punches way above its weight. The rear shock, standard Fox float. With the E-Ball, it did really well too. A little wallowy in terms of like using too much travel at inappropriate times. A volume spacer might go a long way out back. I've got a couple other ideas to maybe get the rear end to perform a little better. It didn't perform poorly, but when compared to a similar travel bike, the Transition Smuggler from 2015, 16, somewhere in there, that Smuggler definitely felt like it had more travel. That said, for its purpose, I don't feel like I'm underwhelmed by the suspension at all. You know, anywhere that the bike starts to get overwhelmed, it's both the front and the rear really getting overwhelmed, and that would just mean that you need to replace both with something longer travel, which takes this bike to a different place, which isn't the point. So it's wildly capable, wildly fun, and punches above its weight, all things considered, but it's still raceable. You know, I did take this to right off the bat, I raced the 50-mile race in Pocatello. I was in podium contention. Okay, maybe not, but I was in fourth. Third was there. He's faster than me, I'll admit it. But I was able to definitely dabble with some decent, formidable competition, and didn't totally embarrass myself at 200 pounds on this beast. So I think that's pretty good. You know, I think that speaks to how efficient the bike is. And I think I was having a lot more fun on the descents than guys on hardtails or guys on uber efficient scalpels, stuff like that. So let's get into some of the problems, things I didn't like, that sort of thing. First and foremost, knock block. Come on, Trek. You do everything hard right. You know, the kinematics are good. The overall anti-squat's pretty good. The aesthetics are good. The stiffness is good. The hardware is all well thought out. You even put a damn chain guide on the bike when nobody else would think to do that. But then you put knock block in. It's this stupid thing that doesn't allow the bars to turn all the way, and you have to run a Trek stem. They claim that it's for stiffness to weight ratio of the downtube, and I call total BS on that. Every other company in the game is able to deal with this quote-unquote problem without it being a problem, in that the single crown fork can easily turn underneath the frame. If you look, it's by millimeters. Like literally, you could machine a bigger headset cup spacer, or you could do something to just like bring the head tube down a little bit and get this thing to clear. Second thing, I blew up the free hub body during the race. That was a bummer. Nobody wants to be collecting pawls to their free hub on the side of a race in 35-degree temps. That wasn't very fun, and I don't wish that upon anybody. But Trek was awesome about warranty, and I have to believe that won't happen again. So the final big question here is, would I buy this bike again? Or do I have bike envy elsewhere? Kind of the same question. The answer is, I would absolutely buy this bike again. I think it's an awesome bike. I think for most riders, this is the bike you need, not the bike you want. You know, for me, I've got a shiny new Enduro in the garage, Specialized Enduro, the new one, and it's awesome, and I love it. But for most trail situations, this is far more fun and appropriate. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think most guys, I said guys for a reason, go buy more bike than they need, and I put myself in that category. We are the type of being that wants to put 35s in a lift kit on our pickup truck for that 1% of 1% of 1% of the time when we might go over a hole that's too big for 32s or something like that. It's silly, and we end up having a worse experience on trail a lot of the time because of the bike we choose to ride. So I get bikes and pickup trucks aren't really the same, and that yes, if you want a bike that can go to the bike park and go do cross country, you need an enduro bike or trail bike or something like that. But for those that don't really care about ever going to a bike park, those that are looking to do bigger rides, or those that can afford 2 bikes and want something fun, this is on a short list, because yes, there are bikes that are sort of like it, but there's really not one that's going to be quite as light and as capable and at this price. You're going to find bikes that are lighter and less capable, or bikes that are heavier and more capable, but not one right in this Goldilocks zone. There's just not. I'm sure you guys will all show me that I'm wrong, and there's like 15. Oh, I didn't mention it, but the bike's like 27.5, 28 as it stands. Oh, it's too heavy. Whatever. It's really not that bad. Everybody lies about their weight on their website. I would wager this bike's in the lower quartile, is that a word, of bikes at this price point in this travel. It's pretty light, all things considered. But yeah, overall, I've had a blast on this bike. I've jumped it, I've manualed it, I've found trail features I didn't know were there. I've absolutely hammered it into corners, and it has held up. I mean, it is like, it asks for more. It doesn't feel like I'm overriding the bike. It feels like you can just throw it around and have a lot of fun with it. Kind of like a big BMX bike with suspension on trail that you can pedal really fast to the top. That's probably the best way I can describe this thing to those that really like to handle the bike in a more active way. Thanks for checking out this review, guys. Like I said, hopefully I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. We've got more lined up. Let me know if you guys like what I'm doing. Let me know if you don't. Let me know what you'd like to see different. Cheers.